The displacement of sovereignty, a legal examination of monetary policy, commercial fraud, and federal taxation. 1. The transformation of the U.S. Treasury. On July 22, 2016, it was publicly acknowledged that the United States Treasury is effectively subsumed under the authority of the International Monetary Fund, IMF. Historical references, such as the legislative citation 41 Stat. Ch.214p.654, 1921, suggest the formal dissolution of the independent Treasury. Since then, financial operations have transitioned to global financial custodianship, raising substantial constitutional and jurisdictional questions regarding U.S. sovereignty and fiscal autonomy. 2. The fiction of lawful currency. The U.S. dollar ceased to be a lawful money as defined under constitutional parameters following the abrogation of the gold and silver standard. Present-day currency represents a promissory obligation, debt, lacking intrinsic value and collateralized solely by a speculative promise to repay. Without tangible backing, these instruments function as negotiable debt notes with no enforceable redemption in specie. 3. The Great Depression and Financial Reorganization. The Emergency Banking Act of 1933 was executed under conditions of economic emergency, suspending the gold standard and introducing a framework of negotiable debt instruments. This act transformed the U.S. into a debtor entity operating under the auspices of international banking interests. The restructuring effectively privatized public assets under the pretense of financial stabilization while dissolving constitutionally guaranteed property rights. 4. Chattel through currency, the legal status of the citizen. In the post-1933 monetary system, every individual utilizing Federal Reserve notes, FRNs, becomes an implied debtor subject to a commercial lien system. These notes, as instruments of foreign issuance, embed a hidden liability in every transaction. Citizens are thereby converted into chattel property of a hidden creditor through consent mechanisms implicit in monetary use. 5. Federal Reserve notes and foreign ownership. FRNs are not United States property but rather instruments issued by a private, foreign banking cartel. This organization, shielded from federal control, holds controlling equity in the U.S. monetary supply. Consequently, every state and federal court, by operating in bankruptcy receivership, represents the interest of this concealed creditor, rather than the citizenry. 6. Taxation as a mechanism of commercial enforcement.
Income tax, classified under federal law as an excise, is levied not upon citizens per se, but upon activities involving the use of foreign commercial paper, i.e., FRNs.
Thus, labor is taxed not as property but as a commercial transaction, effectively severing the individual from the full value of their productive output. 7. The loss of national sovereignty and Rothschild doctrine. By 1933, national sovereignty was functionally ceded to external financial authorities. This submission placed the U.S. under international receivership. Meyer-Amschel Rothschild's aphorism, "Permit me to issue and control the money," finds embodiment in this fiscal transformation. The sovereign power to legislate was nullified by the economic power to control currency. 8. The disposition of national gold reserves. Executive actions by President Roosevelt, including Executive Order 6102, resulted in the nationalization of gold reserves, which were subsequently transferred through complex foreign intermediaries. Allegations persist that these assets now reside under Vatican custodianship via Chinese intermediaries, leaving the U.S. devoid of any constitutional monetary base. 9. Mortgage fraud and commercial deception. Mortgage agreements, predicated on the illusion of lawful consideration, are executed through the issuance of debt rather than actual value. Lending institutions extend no substantive asset, yet enforce repayment under the pretext of contractual liability. This constitutes a form of commercial fraud wherein the borrower is both originator and payer of fictitious capital. 10. Jefferson's warning on public debt and enslavement. Thomas Jefferson's warnings against public indebtedness resonate prophetically in the contemporary fiscal structure. Excessive taxation, labor commodification, and institutional suppression of accountability culminate in a system where autonomy is exchanged for managed subsistence. Public debt becomes the mechanism by which liberty is mortgaged and civil faculties extinguished. 11. The illusion of tax obligation. The modern tax regime imposes multifaceted levies, on property, commerce, labor, and identity, without a unified constitutional foundation. Notably, former IRS agents have attested that no statute requires the filing of a Form 1040. Fuel taxes fund highways, while education is financed by state property taxes. Thus, the federal income tax serves purposes disconnected from direct public benefit. 12. Debt as governance and elite monetary control. Today's global governance model utilizes perpetual debt as the foundation for population control. The international banking elite, modeled on esoteric orders and sovereign dynasties such as the Rothschild, possess disproportionate wealth and influence. These entities shape education, policy, and perception, operating above governments and manipulating economies to maintain hierarchical dominance. 13. Conclusion: Financial instruments as chains of command. The use of commercial paper in lieu of constitutional currency has inverted the role of government from sovereign representative to corporate enforcement agent. Through subtle instruments of legal presumption, the citizen becomes the surety in a system of perpetual subjugation. Sovereignty, therefore, is not lost through conquest but surrendered through ignorance, contract, and inaction.